Feed starts and it started. Hey guys, welcome back. It's Christopher
And Angela.
and my lovely wife Angela. Welcome. We are the Dinosaur Omelette. We are a small hatchery here in lovely southern Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, United States. We specialize in jumbo coturnix.
Jumbo quail.
She raises the delightful
Silky chickens.
Which make excellent pets.
And we also have Black Australorp heritage breed chickens for meat and eggs.
Yeah, that's our dual purpose heritage birds. Yeah. But we focus on the quail.
Yeah.
If you're unfamiliar with us, we do a lot of education. We do a lot of these weekly videos to answer questions. If anybody has a question, put them in the comment and we'll get to them. If you're new here, do the YouTube-y things. Hit the old likey button and the subscribe. What do you call it? It motivates me to do actual video instead of just all these lives. I put together something nice and educational. Yeah, but if you have any questions, drop them in. If you want to reach out to us, you have any questions, go hit the Facebook. Flyer Dad, hey man, what's going on?
Oh, hey.
Is this our friend from the Netherlands? My Dutch relative over there? It's Susan.
Hey,
Hi, Susan. How you doing? Thanks for stopping in. Good to see you. She complimented you on your video. That she did your brooder video.
Oh, yes.
She did not see that. Anyway, welcome in, guys. Tonight we're going to be talking about quail versus chicken. Basically the differences, pros and cons. And I've done this video before. It's pretty simple, but to me it's pretty important.
Yes, man.
Yes. Oh, he's speaking Dutch. Hi, Ducci. Oh.
Yes,
hi.
he's half Dutch.
Half Dutch.
Yep, his dad came from,
he's
migrated
tall.
over.
Yes, tall and thin, and I'm short and fat.
No.
So he's tall and thin.
He is very tall, his dad, yeah.
So, yeah, quail versus chicken. Why is this important? So for you guys who do quail businesses, and for you guys who are just raising your own animals, there's two perspectives. For the quail business people, this is an important thing because a lot of people have no knowledge of quail yet. Still a new thing in the United States anyway.
Yeah.
Here in the U.S., quail are not thought of as a go-to poultry animal. It's a very chicken-dominated industry. That's Steve, right?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Hey, how you doing, man?
For all the useful content.
Oh, here's Steve.
Oh, yeah.
I recognize your purple headline. So, hi, Steve. How are you tonight? Yeah, so for the quail business people, like we do, so we sell quail, it's pretty imperative that we educate the uneducated people who don't know about these animals as to what their qualities are, what their benefits are, and how they're applicable as food producers, egg producers, meat producers, which they really are. Personally, for me, I like them a lot more than the chickens because they're so prolific in their production of eggs, their meat, and the space they take up.
The energy for us to tend to them. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
No, yeah.
Incredible one. So for people in quail business, know these differences because it's important. Because a customer, whether they're saying it or not, or if you're just interested yourself in quail, whether you may not even consciously be aware, you're comparing them to something. We are creatures, human beings, of context. We need a relationship to understand things. So the way we understand quail, or birds, or eggs anyway, is we think of chickens. It's the thing we know. And so we don't understand quail very much because we relate it to chicken and like, this
they look different.
They look
act different.
They're tiny, you know, so this makes no sense. I think this thing is small. So it is on it's our responsibility to educate people as to why they're extremely beneficial, which they are. They're great birds. Actually, you want to pull one out and show everybody? Sure. We're going to talk about quail versus chicken benefits and whatnot in just a sec. But first, for the new people, and I always like doing show and tell, Angela's going to show you a quail. I'm going to show you the egg, because people always say, how big? Can I drop an egg? How big are the eggs? Well, there's a male.
This is a boy. He's got a nice rust red chest. He's still growing. He's a young guy. I think he's maybe like 7 weeks old. But
so he's not full grown.
He has a nice.
He's almost full grown. So he's almost to
temperament.
his full size, but he'll get a little bigger.
We were talking about him earlier, how this guy's pretty calm.
Very calm.
And cute.
We bred him that way. So they're not very huge animals, but they do have prolific output. The male's not laying eggs, obviously, but The females do lay quite a bit of eggs, 300 per year in the eggs. So how big are eggs? They're about this size. So 3 to 1. I always say 3 to 1. About 3 quail eggs. I'm working against gravity. 3 quail eggs are equivalent to a chicken egg.
Wow, wish
my
my
ruse
ruse
for
are
that
that too.
channel.
Well, he's a grow out, so
Yeah.
keep you're hatching. You're working on hatching more, right, Bill? So, yeah, keep temperament. Obviously, it's part of your plan, your program. So
If he
keep
has
the
a
good
good
ones.
temperament but scrawny legs and chest, that's not good.
Yeah, sometimes you sacrifice in certain areas to keep a certain quality, but you keep them in your program temporarily. Um, but overall, obviously, you want a good specimen in all aspects. But in a breeding program, you use different
Let me
qualities.
show him his foot. Maybe you guys can see that he's wearing a band. Angela just did a video on this, on why she bands them, but she bands them to denote size, right,
Yeah, and
growth.
this particular color is to do with our spiral breeding program. So I know that he comes from my top pen because you have to keep all the grow outs separate, but cataloged so you know where they came from in a spiral program.
Yeah, I'll hold him up for a minute. So there's a lot of variety of quail, all right? We specialize in food production.
Yeah.
So these are the most practical. These are jumbo coturnix quail or japonica coturnix.
Yes, you have 50 eggs cooking. Oh, great. That's awesome.
Oh, cool,
Nice
man.
number.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys are sexable at 3 weeks old, which is why we like them, based on their feather pattern. So there's no guessing or we don't have to check by either vent. Makes it easy to
Yeah,
grow them.
that's the other good thing about this particular
This
variety of coturnix quail. The color pattern makes them feather sexable 3
I'm gonna
weeks.
put 'em down 'cause
Yeah,
it
you can
feels
put them down.
warm.
So anyway, we'll get to the benefits. Just want to show you guys these quails if you're unfamiliar. They're great birds. And like I said, I've been doing like animal husbandry, crazy man prepping for a long time. And this is my favorite animal. I like them better than the chickens. I like the eggs better. To me personally, they're tastier. I use them in all my baking and cooking, but I do like them better. So 3 to 1, 3 of these equals 1 of these. And you would be surprised how quickly you get over the cutting open and cracking these eggs. You're like, oh, these are so small. But you get over that. I think it's just a matter of habit and culture. Like, once you start cracking these after the first day, you don't even notice it. But they're very, very tasty. They lay a lot. So Bill said he's curious about the title. Quail versus chicken, or the title of this Dinosaur Omelette? Because we're going to be talking about quail versus chicken.
Yeah, I did want to mention we do have
And that's what we're going to right now.
we have heritage breed black Australorp chickens. We have our quail. We have meat rabbits. We have Muscovy ducks. The Beak battle.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's right. That was
Hold
that
on 1 second.
YouTube
Let me finish.
title. Right.
And we're not against any particular animal or anything like that. We want to educate about the quail and the chickens. There's pros and cons to everything, any topic in life, and so we're going to talk about those things. But we do encourage people to have a layered system, if at all possible, for you.
Redundancy.
It's good to
different
have
animals.
more than one method, of food. Christopher always likes to say 1 is none, 2 is 1, 3 is 2. So if you
Sometimes 2 is none.
yeah, like if you have anyway. So we have different egg sources, different meat types, that kind of thing. But if you are focusing only on one or just getting started, we promote the quail because they're just awesome for many reasons we'll talk about.
We're going to go into.
But if you can do more types of things, then we do encourage that. So
Yeah.
beak
Well,
battle?
yes. So Bill said, I think it was Bill. Why is it called Beak Battle? It's YouTube. I had to come up with a catchy name because we'll be talking about the chicken and the quail, the differences, the benefits, and the pros and cons to each. And launching this whole discussion, I would really suggest people think about what their goals are. Because maybe a chicken is best for some people, and maybe the quail is best for others. So you know what your goals are, know what your infrastructure is like, what you're dealing with, and some other considerations, time, finances, things like this. But each bird has great benefits, and each bird has some drawbacks, which we're going to discuss to get you guys up to speed. So you know.
That's Kelly.
Oh, you're saying hi to Kelly. Sorry, I'm reading comments on the screen too. If I stop all of a sudden. Okay, so quail versus chicken. Well, I have a few points down here. The first thing I was talking about, which I already discussed, was the egg size. I wanted to talk about that first. So, because that's a big, I don't want to get those birds. The eggs are so small. It's like, people are hesitant about that because they're tiny
Silkies
eggs.
are the best chicken. Yes, they are. They're so
Silkies are
sweet. And they lay
very
eggs.
gentle.
Yes, they're like foo-foo dogs, but very calm and quiet.
So the egg size, if you're, I'm trying to think of this from both perspectives. Somebody trying to sell quail, and then somebody who doesn't want
You can
quail.
start just with space requirements.
I don't want to talk about the egg size because that's a rejection people have.
Well, that's what
And that was a
mean.
rejection I had.
What I mean, like, if you have one chicken needs...
Well, yeah.
Okay,
Let
go
me just get to the direct size thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's a mental hurdle, really. You see a small egg, and I've heard this. I don't want to crack 1,000,000 eggs to have breakfast. So this is all, like, the human being is so fascinating to me because so much of what we do is subjective. It's just psychological, and it's a mental thing.
Kelly says, if I was anyone near PA, I'd drive to fill my car with all the Dino Puff Silkies from you guys.
Yeah. He's running away
We
with the
have
bandits.
people drive 3.5 hours one way to meet for our Silkies. So, yeah, egg size, not an issue. I got overrun with eggs last year. I believe it.
Well, no, I don't think it's an issue either, but people do when they first
who
see
are
them.
new to-
Like when I first saw them, I'm like, oh, these eggs are kind of small. Is that really something you want to have to crack open? But, you know, if you really put it into like an objective context rather than like, oh, that looks like a lot, how lazy could you possibly be that cracking open 3 to 6 little eggs is such a big difference? It really isn't. It's a strange thing, I think, with people have that perspective of a small.
I think it's the small, but then also, because like I was there once, because let's see, Kelly says, I've heard quail eggs have more nutrients than chicken eggs. Is that true?
I can answer that. That was Dad. That was my dad from Dutch.
Oh, sorry.
So,
Sorry.
Quail eggs, it's negligible. It's negligible. I'm not. It's a little higher, yes, but it's because the yolk to white ratio is higher. Oh my God, my family complains about that, and it drives me nuts. Oh yeah, the egg size. I know. You do hear people complain about it, but the nutrient density is. I'm not going to be a shyster and say, oh, quail eggs, they're higher in nutrition than a chicken egg. Technically, they are by weight. It's because of the yolk to white ratio. But it's negligible, particularly in the context of a person's total diet. I never like to sell a health benefit of something as a sole motivator for somebody because to do that, you really need to look at somebody's entire diet and then restructure it from scratch to incorporate that thing that you're talking about.
They complain about having to crack them.
Yeah, well, like tell them, go to Walmart and get a dozen eggs for $1. That's what I say. Oh, by the way, sorry I sound like a pro wrestler again. Like, brother, I'm going to get on the ring and take him. I get hoarse. I don't know what I was doing, just working out.
No. Bill says they are better because you know what went into them. Yes.
Precisely.
Let me, the thought process of the small eggs, because like, before I was new to quail, 2020 is when we went, full blown, we're going to be doing homesteading, we're going to be growing and producing our food, and we're going to figure this out, and we're going to do that.
Started going barefoot.
We did, yep. He goes hiking barefoot in the woods. So that, I never had quail before. I didn't know anybody with quail. All I really knew about was like, the quail people used for hunting, but I didn't even know what they were called. So then I came across the jumbo quail just as I was learning about animals to have on the homestead. And as soon as I found them, I was, watching about benefits, and I was just enthralled and like super glued and learning as much as I could. And one of the things I did think about before was, the eggs are so small, and I don't think so. It wasn't rooted in any kind of facts or information. It was just a concept or belief, like how small they are. And I think it goes to when you have a chicken, that chicken lays a single egg. And if you have like 4 chickens, then you might get 4 or 1 to 4 eggs a day. It just goes up and down. And when you see that little bird, for me, it was like, I just didn't anticipate numerous eggs, like a lot of eggs. And when you think about the housing and the needs of a quail versus a chicken, you can have happy quails, in a small space and a lot of them. And then you don't just get like 3 eggs a day. You get like a ton of eggs a day compared to chickens.
You're taking away all my
I know.
points.
Well, I know. It's just that once I understood that, and that the jumbos, their egg size is the largest among the quail.
Yeah.
And then it's the prolific layers. I was just like, oh my gosh, it took that away from me.
Let me just show you. Let me see. There's one of the little hutches. It's a whole big bowl of eggs just from
that's like
one of the hutches.
Like maybe 10 to 15 quail. But
no, that's more than 10. That's like.
Oh, was it all 3 cages?
No, it was.
Anyway,
it was one of the big cages.
So I think that's part of it.
Yeah, so anyway, moving on. Like, I want to talk about egg size. She got to the point. So egg size, yeah, people complain, and I can understand it, but again, it is what it is, as they say. So that could be a drawback for some people. I don't really think it is, especially if you're raising the animal. If that's somebody's major complaint, it's really not an issue whatsoever about egg size because of these other facts about the quail. It should negate egg size as ever being an issue. So, speaking of egg size, egg laying age. So, quail versus chicken. So, Bill, this is the beak battle I was talking about. They're going to be, so who wins in egg laying age? Well, obviously it's the quail. And I'm going to put it into context because I don't like being one-sided. I'm always honest. So, yes, the jumbo quails start laying at 6 to 8 weeks, right? Size doesn't matter, people. Yeah, that's great. So they start laying at 6 to 8 weeks. The quail do. They start at 6 and they start laying consistency at 8 weeks. When you go to Tractor Supply and you buy your little chick.
People are typically buying.
When you buy your little chick.
Chicken chicks in the spring.
Yeah.
And
how long does it take before you get an egg from your little chicken chick?
Like 5 to 7 months, depending on the breed.
Depending on the breed. Take 5, 6, and 7 months.
Yeah, depending.
Which a lot of people find out. They buy the chicks and they're like,
they're so excited.
What's up? What's going on with my chickens? I'm not getting eggs over here.
They're investing a lot of time.
And they built like these $3,000. The people with nothing better to do, but oh my God, I'm gonna go buy a chicken house today. They spent $3,000 on a chicken house. They're expensive, which we'll talk about later too. And the eggs do take a while. But there is a benefit to the chicken laying the eggs. The egg production from a chicken is longer than a quail. So we'll go into egg maturity. So the chicken's going to consistently lay for 2 to 3 years?
2 to 3 years. Some breeds are longer.
They don't stop at 3 years. They're not stopping. It's just decreasing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But 5 years is old.
A little old.
5 years is definitely old for a chicken.
Quail, they have a very rapid life cycle from incubation time shorter, maturity time is shorter, and their egg laying lifespan is shorter. So they're going to be laying prolifically and consistently for 1.5 years. 2 years is pushing it, right?
Yeah.
So about 18 months.
Are the silkies a while to get eggs? They are cute, but what about practicality? Silkies, 7 months. They are a mini breed, but they're slow growing. You think the large breeds, which is true, the large like heritage breeds that are heavy, they take 7 months usually to lay eggs, and also are ready for meat because they take a long time to grow. But the silkies take a while to grow, and they lay like 180 eggs a year because a hen is going to go broody maybe once a month, maybe it might be a month and a half. Some push it every 2 months, but they do. Okay, never mind. But if you have, so here's the thing, you can
They're
get
pets.
you
They're
can
like pets.
you can get a lot of eggs from silkies if you have enough of them. So if
Yeah,
you
if you
have
have
like
500 or 600
12,
silkies,
if you have like 10 to 12 silky hens, you're gonna get a lot of eggs weekly to eat. But if you don't have that many, then yeah. But their eggs are good. They're medium size.
Yeah, the people we deal with,
They're pets.
they're for temperament. They're very
Yeah.
gentle, docile, pick up
For
chickens.
families.
They're fluffy, and the kids like them.
Mhm.
I wouldn't exactly. If I had to go camp out in the woods for a year and I had to bring one animal, it would not be a silky chicken.
But they are good. They're broody, so they're good to hatch things. I've had my silkies hatching giant duck eggs. I've had like 3 duck eggs under a silkie, multiple hens. But anyway.
All right, let me get back to this. So we're talking about egg lifespan.
Yeah.
So the quail start laying eggs at 6 to 8 weeks. Chickens take much longer. I mean, they do. They take a longer time to mature. 4, 5, 6 months or more.
It's 5 to 7 months. Yeah.
5 to 7 months.
Usually, it's typically around 6 months. There's some breeds like the black Australorp start at 5 months typically.
I like to say 4 months because somebody on Facebook will yell at me otherwise.
It's not 4 months is it's too
Way
early.
too early.
They're still growing.
Because they're always like, it doesn't matter what you say. Somebody's going to cuss you out no matter what you say.
And if they
You say
are
water's wet. I don't think
if
so.
they
It was
are
dry.
laying that early, then that's because somehow there's something manipulated to push them to, and that's not healthy. Susan says if you get chicks in the spring and it takes 6 to 7 months for them to begin laying.
That puts it into fall. Supplemental
Exactly.
light is not provided. Will that add more time before they begin laying?
Yes.
Precisely.
So
yes,
what
exactly.
happens? I'm not sure if we're gonna get into this, but what happens is people get so excited to buy chicks in the spring because you're ready now. You're gonna be outside and doing stuff outside, and they're okay with doing the whole coop thing because it's not cold. Well, you get your chicks in the spring, and it's the fall when they're old enough to start laying. But now we're losing daylight, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people are new.
Yeah, the new chicken people bought the
So they
chicks.
don't know anything about light.
They don't
That
realize
100% affects egg laying. And
they got
so,
broken chickens. Our chickens are broken.
So they spent all this money on the chickens, and they're just anticipating that first egg, which is like super expensive by this point. And then they might lay like 1, 2, 3 eggs. Maybe they'll start like laying, but then November hits and they just kind of stop, and they're just like, what's happening? So the light is decreasing. If they delay in giving them the light, then yeah, it's going to take their bodies a little time to adjust to it and get going. So you end up like with a chicken that should be laying in 5 to 6 months, but it's more like 9 months because of that hiccup with the light and getting a light in the coop. So if you're gonna start with chicken chicks, ideally you want to get them like January, February. So then they're laying still during the hot months, not the end when the light is less. Anyway.
Okay, so I'm like lose track. So talked about eggs. Talked about egg life cycle. Chickens stop laying after, or they decrease their laying at 2 years or so.
People tend to replace.
I'm trying
them.
to segue to my next section.
Yeah.
And they stop laying at around, well, not stop, but chickens will decrease their laying at around 2 years. It starts to settle down a bit. It doesn't stop, it just decreases. And eventually it's really not there.
Yeah, it's not reliable.
Product at all. So why is this important? Because we're going to be talking about, growth cycle. Missouri. What the hell was I talking about? Well, I'm getting lost. Oh, cost of startup. So after growth cycle, egg laying, I want to talk about cost of startup, quail versus chicken. And this one should seem obvious to you guys. If you're not familiar, it's very simple. Chickens require much more space. They require runs, which is like a grass area, someplace where they can go around and peck. You don't keep them in their house all day, unless you're a giant agribusiness company, then you got 500,000 of them smashed into a warehouse, and somehow that's great for them. But if you're raising chickens at home, you're probably normal, and you want to have your chickens running around doing happy chicken stuff. So they require a run. They're living organisms, and that's their condition. The quail do not. They don't require big coops. and they don't require runs. They are perfectly fine in a hutch, okay? They can stay in a hutch. A pro to the chicken is they free range. They go around and they peck and they're walking. So in this case, a con might be for the quail, because I'm fair here. A con would be you can't free range your quail. You can't open the cage out and let them go run around because they don't have that instinct to come back to that cage, especially if you don't have fencing.
Yeah, if you do that, you may never see
You'll
them
never
again.
see them. Well, you'll see them, but
They might
you'll be
like,
trying to catch them.
Yeah.
Chickens, you don't even need a fence for them, really. Once they learn their area, they're going to stay there. The quail, you're going to keep in a hutch. However, it's much, much less expensive to just have a hutch, like a 2-foot by 4-foot hutch will hold your quail, plenty of quail. You need a larger structure for the chickens. So that's initial startup cost. And a lot of people, and that's why I like doing this comparison video, because a lot of people are just starting out. They're like excited about chickens, but they don't realize how much money it is, especially these young couples, man. They just got married, they got other bills, and wife's like, I want chickens. And husband should be like, no, you want quail. They're a lot cheaper. And they come in a small box. He brings them in a box. So, yeah, one of the benefits of the quail is that the startup cost of the housing is much less expensive. It's much less expensive.
The predator part too.
Right, the predator part too, like you said. With the housing structures, quail, because they're kept inside of a hutch, as long as it's built properly, you're never going to have a problem with predators. Nothing's going to get in there. We've never had a predator get into the cages.
People tend to get very relaxed with their chickens, with the free ranging, and usually, maybe somebody will have their chickens free ranging, and maybe even for some years, and then all of a sudden, with no issues, and then all of a sudden, all of them are gone, or some of them have been taken, because the predators have now discovered them. And so having them free ranging is nice, but if there's not monitored at all, then they're kind of fair game to wildlife and birds of prey.
Yeah, and so like the 2 seasons, the predators, you're going to notice them a lot. It's springtime when all the babies are coming. Mama fox needs to eat stuff. So Mama fox goes and eats the chickens. And in the winter, when there's nothing left to eat, Mama fox wants to have babies and needs to go eat.
Smell really good.
So this time of year, you're going to notice a change in your environment. You're going to see the movement and the patterns change. So keep an eye out for that, whether you have quail or chicken.
And a big deal about that is what we already discussed is it takes like 5 to 7 months to get that first egg. And if the predator, eliminates your birds, now you're starting again. If you're buying chicks again. The quail, it's a matter of weeks before they're laying again.
I would like to say too, this is a pro of chicken over quail, I definitely think, is that you interact with the chickens. The chickens are intermingling, they're on the ground, so you do interact with them, you're feeding them. They become tame to you, they come up to you.
They have their personalities that you can pick out.
They have personalities. Let me pick up my reading box here. Bill said, are your birds outside? I have hawks, foxes, fishers. I like the fishers.
Yeah, they're pretty.
Coyotes, etc., so I have to still keep mine in the garage. Yeah, ours are outside.
We have ours outside, the quail and the chickens. The quail are in the hutches are protected as far as the hardware cloth goes. But occasionally, because they're outside, we do get some animals harassing them.
They'll climb on the
cages. We've had raccoons climbing on them and scaring them.
Hawk trying to get into the cage from the top.
Yeah.
But we've never had anybody, rats, hawks.
So we've had to, deal with that. But once that issue was taken care of, then the quail were fine and nothing, long term, anything happened. But that would be challenging if you're in an area where you have numerous types of predators, a lot.
The issue with the predators, and this is true for quail or chicken, so it's not a pro or con for either.
True.
The issue with predators too, even if they're not gobbling up your little buddies, they're stressing them out, and when they get stressed, they're gonna stop laying, and their behavior changes. You may notice like chickens will huddle somewhere or something to avoid the predator, and you may hear them every once in a while. They'll see something in the sky, and everybody starts going crazy. they're doing what in nature they would do. They're warning their mates, like there's something in the sky, or they got spooked. But yeah, if there's a routine predator coming around an animal, even if he's not eating them, the stress in the environment from the predator being present may instigate the animals to stop laying. And the reason is because biologically, it does not make much sense to lay eggs when they're just going to get gobbled up. So
and if their body's stressed,
it's a stress response.
It takes a lot of energy for them to produce the eggs in the first place.
Yeah.
So then the body's using energy being stressed too.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't matter what type of poultry it is, they would have a similar response.
Yeah. But yeah, raising them in an enclosure, like you're saying, Bill, in a garage, there's a lot of benefits to that. I mean, there's a couple of drawbacks too. Like anything, there's pros and cons.
Everything.
So, and it depends on what somebody's doing. If it's going to work out best for them.
We have Flyer Dad.
Flyer Dad from the good land of Dutch. In Holland, quail is also called stealth poultry because Holland is so small and crowded. People don't usually like it when their neighbors have chickens. That's exactly right. I was about to talk about that. I like that stealth chickens. We Americans watch a lot of movies over here, and we like that kind of. I'm gonna do. I don't have quail. I got stealth birds. What do you call them? Stealth poultry. I like that. And that was
go under the radar.
I don't know what's wrong with my voice. And that's what I'm going to discuss. I was actually going to bring that up next because of the housing. Quail is easier to have than chickens then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. And the same here in the U.S. If you're watching this, the reason I'm saying that, one of our delightful viewers is from the Netherlands overseas. So I'm referencing what also happens here in the U.S. So hold on one second.
Okay.
So in the cities and not even the cities, like even in
like
rural
HOA
areas,
or
HOA, homeowner associations where they have strict rules, or towns with ordinances, they may not want you keeping chickens because of the noise. Okay, poultry. I mean, the quail, the stealth poultry, they don't make it. Well, they don't make any noise if you have the numbers managed properly, male to female ratio, which is about 5 females per 1 male. Then you're not going to really hear the crowing of the male. They don't cause a noise issue. And
they sound like a wild bird, too. It's not like a typical sound people would recognize.
I'm not giving you legal advice for your area, but most areas don't have any prohibition against these Coturnix quail for raising them. You can look into it in your own area. Me, I'm a rule breaker, so I live on the edge. I'll be raising birds.
Yeah.
But
so the males, they'll make like a wild bird call, and like he said, if you have females with them, then they're pretty distracted. If you don't have any males, then they're not going to. The females really don't make noises that people would even hear. If you're growing males out for food, for meat, then they could get a bit chattery, and you may have to either bring them inside, or I would recommend mixing them with a bunch of females if you have the space to do that, because then if with enough females, so then they would be busy and distracted before processing time to cut back on sound.
Yeah. So yeah, that's true. Thank you, Flyer Dad from the Netherlands, for bringing that up.
I think Bill left.
Oh, Bill did say something.
Yeah.
Let me move in there. I have done lots of things to keep the smell down in the garage because I'm afraid to have them outside here in the woods.
Yeah.
Oh, seed weep reap is in town. Hi, hon.
Hi.
Yeah, well, Bill, I think that's the one con that we discussed is like manure management indoors is a little more challenging than
Have you tried having them outside yet? Is your decision based on your understanding of the area and predators, or is it also based on experience having a type of poultry outdoors? And the reason why I ask is because you could try putting them outside and just kind of reinforcing the area. Like you could put like electric wire, or there's that electric poultry fencing people like to use that you can move around.
Machine gun on a turret.
Around your hutch. There are things you could do to keep predators away.
Yeah.
If you really don't want them inside. So there's workarounds for different things.
They are, and it depends on the number of birds. I mean, that's, what you're doing is, I'm not gonna, again, it's hard to tell anybody what to do over
Yeah.
the internet, over the video, but you have to look at your situation, the number of birds you have, how often you're around, you know, what you're trying to do, especially if it's a source of income. You don't want to have them getting iced out by a bunch of predators, or you don't want to have them stop laying. You know, even the move itself may stress them enough to stop laying for a while, going from inside to outside, just because of the change of environment.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about egg size, how long they lay, cost of startup quail and chicken. Of course, quail's gonna be cheaper because you raise them in little boxes. Oh, by the way, guys, down below I did this cute little, what do you call it, like infographic about some of these points. I do illustrations, so I drew a drawing for quail and chicken comparison. But there's a bunch of links down in the description of this video. All right, the next thing we talk about is age for butchering. Quail, simple. That male that we brought out at the beginning here, he's about 8 weeks old, so he's actually a butcher age. 8 weeks to 10 weeks, you're going to butcher your quail. Or afterwards.
Yeah, they're mature at 10 weeks.
10 weeks is their first size.
If you do, the difference really between 8 weeks and 10 weeks is like 2 or 3 ounces in meat. I use Have a Heart traps. I relocate the predator animals.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah. I like nature.
Yeah.
I'm a nature man. Yeah, I love all of the creatures.
Let's see.
What was I yapping about?
I'm thinking about that too.
Okay.
Oh, but the butchering age.
Butchering age. So quail, they're going to reach butcher maturity between 8 to 10 weeks. And we always go over this. The difference in weight between 8 to 10 weeks is slight. It's an ounce or two.
It's like 2 or 3 ounces.
Okay, a couple ounces.
But they're very plump already at 8 weeks. Yeah.
If you're raising, so if you've never had quail before, if you're raising like 3 or 4 quail and that's your butchering animals, you probably want to raise them to 10 weeks to max them out. But if you have 50 birds, okay, like who'll butcher 50, 60, or 70 birds at once, we don't want to raise them up to 10 weeks because that's a lot of food. That's not the return of investment on that just doesn't make any sense. It's negligible or it's negative. So you say, oh, okay, quails, sorry dudes, it's 8 weeks. I don't know, time to go to the freezer. So we don't have to spend the extra money on the food conversion for meat, which at that point is not going to be as great and exponential as it is.
Yeah, the growth rate significantly decreases at that point.
Yeah, it's like, and it kind of like, it peters out. They're very, very fast growing the first 2 weeks. They double their size in the first week. I mean, if these quails grew every week
up to 8 weeks, you can tell if you handle a quail each week, once a week, you're gonna feel just in your hands the size difference. So they do each week. You can tell they grow pretty darn fast.
Good.
Yeah.
So if they would keep doubling in size, by the end of 3 months, they'd be the size of an elephant. Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't want elephants. So, but they stop growing at about 8 weeks to 10 weeks is their butcher age. Enough of that. Let's go to the chickens. So when do we butcher our chickens? This is the difference. Can I say this and I'll let you talk?
Yep, you're good. Yep.
She's going to talk about this. The 2 varieties of chickens. There's what's called heritage breed chickens, which are the popular ones that are pretty and we love.
Heritage breeds are older.
Older birds. They have lineage.
They were bred for purposes and with lots of care.
Sure. And then you have your commercial breeds or your broiler birds, and they grow fast. Take it away. I'm gonna get some water. I'll be right back, man.
Okay.
You're done.
So, the heritage breeds, they are traditional type chickens. Black Australorp we have. There's dual purpose breeds that you can use for meat and are also very good layers. So they produce a lot of eggs. There's also heritage breeds that they're not as high producing with eggs, but their body matures at a bigger size for meat. So they were over many years perfected to look a certain way and have a certain shape.
It's like they have a heritage or something.
For meat.
That's how I remember them.
Yeah. And they're they're taking longer to grow. It's a bigger bird than a quail. So they're going to range between, usually it's like 16 to 22 weeks
To butcher?
to process them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so people wouldn't forget, we're talking about
Processing,
butcher
for
age.
meat.
Yeah, meat.
Heritage breeds.
So the heritage breeds take how long? Sorry, I like to highlight. Heritage breeds?
Usually it's like 16 weeks to like 22 weeks. Some of the bigger breeds might be longer.
Can I say something?
So it's kind of like 5 to 7 months, like with the laying.
The benefit to the heritage breeds, however, over the broiler birds and the commercial breeds.
Get there. Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
We're not talking about them yet. The benefit of the heritage breeds is they're reproducible.
Right. So
Okay.
we do have black Australorps because they're faster growing of the meat variety, but they're also known as being very high producers in eggs, like top producers. What was the comment?
All right, this is aside from the chicken thing. I'm just getting to Susan's comment. Sorry, I'm reading off of my iPad. I'm working on a breeding program for my quail. What I like is an all black quail, cool, that lays black eggs. I'm 20% there.
Wow.
I have black celadon. Now I'm trying to find an overproducing pigment gland. Wish me luck.
Very cool.
Well,
That's
luck.
a neat program.
I would like to see the results of that.
Yeah, that's neat.
I-
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, and if you're tracking, that would be cool info to find out about.
Yeah. So the reason why somebody might want to have heritage breed for as part of their meat program is because
Which we do.
You're going to get meat and eggs from them. They take longer than the quail, obviously, to grow for meat and eggs, but you can reproduce them. They'll lay eggs. Some of these breeds will even hatch them, like black Australorps go broody, but they're very friendly as well. And the meat, it's very tasty. They taste like what chicken is supposed to taste like because they were bred that way. Now, you're going to have to consider, space to keep the grow outs for a longer duration of time. Also, roosters, crow. Usually what you consume, some people will consume the hens as well, but usually it's the roosters. So that usually does determine when people process them, because if they don't want to hear the crowing, which is loud with chickens, then they'll process them a little bit on the early side. If they don't mind, then they'll be crowing for several weeks before they do.
What's the difference? Learn to get up early.
We tend to process ours around 18 weeks because that's when they find their voice pretty strongly. Then there's also the broiler chickens, which people are very well aware of.
So heritage chickens, now we're talking about
those big,
broilers.
Big chickens.
They're
usually
okay. They're called broilers. I don't know why they call them that. I wish they had a better name, because you throw them in the oven and cook them. You broil them. I don't know why they just called them that.
And
I looked this up, and sorry.
There are different varieties of meat chickens, but we're gonna focus more on the Cornish cross. That's the white ones. There's slower growing meat chickens that are in the same category of the broilers type, where they take a little longer to grow. They might taste a little different, but people are most familiar with the Cornish cross, those white ones. Are there chickens that you can do in cages because of predators, or should I just hatch lots of quails? Laugh out loud. You can, let's see. Are you wanting to do them for eggs or eggs and meat? Because there's a difference. If you want to do chickens for eggs, yes, I would say there's definitely lots of breeds you can use that are high producers of eggs and put in cages. Hatching time also have, you want to do meat. I was going to say eggs because they're smaller. Now, the meat chickens, you can do them in the cages. They're just bigger. So, for example, just an example, hatching time, they have a chicken cage, stackable chicken. It's like taller. It's like 15 inches, I think, where you can put chickens in them. Those are not big enough for like a meat type chicken, like the black Australorps, for example, because just at like 8 or 9 weeks old, they have a hard time even fitting their heads through the slots to get to the feeding tray. So you would probably, have to either find a cage specifically for chickens or make something, modify it yourself. But you definitely can do that.
Hey, Billy, you just came up with another good positive of quail over meat chickens. You can just keep them in their cage.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like we're getting what we get, Cornish cross?
Yeah, so Cornish cross.
They're going to take up, all I was going to say is we raise them outside. They take up space. I don't want to get
very
too much.
different.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much into like the very particulars about these birds, but they grow, they're fat, they're dirty.
They're lazy.
They eat a lot. I mean, they are a lot. They're work for what they are. They get big and they get big really quick, but it's a commitment. And if it's something you want to do, yeah, do it. I never tell anybody what to do because I don't know them. You need to know what your goal is. I always talk to people like, really understand what you're trying to accomplish. What are your goals? And it sounds kind of generic, but it's the end. Like this is, all of my energy is funneling down to meet this one point.
Yeah.
That's it. So everything that I'm doing is for this point. If you don't know what that point is, it's very difficult to understand how to do anything here, whether it's chicken or quail. Like, people we often get people like, oh, I just want to start out and can you give me one quail? Haven't we had people ask for one quail? It's like, well, it'll die. It probably will die just to one quail.
So
like, why are you getting one? Let me just finish.
Okay.
I don't want to interrupt you. So, like, know the goal. Like, what are you trying to accomplish? And I'm not chastising or trying to yell at you, Bill. I'm just saying for anybody in general, know what your goals are so you can plan as best as possible and avoid the problems that come along with it. That's what the learning curve really is. Learning curve is I didn't plan properly. I don't know why they call it a learning curve.
You learn a lot from not planning properly.
Because you didn't know what you didn't know.
Yeah.
So that learning process happens after the fact. But whatever knowledge you have, do the best you can to plan accordingly and speak to people who may be able to help, such as ourselves or whoever it is who does what it is you're doing that has knowledge, particularly of your assets and liabilities, like what you have, land availability, your time, like any existing structures, and then liabilities, like you have a predator issue going on, right? Is it really shady? Things like that. More knowledge, the more information. I'm a science-minded guy. The more data, the better you can execute your plan.
So the Cornish cross, people will process them as early as 6 weeks if they want a smaller bird, which, that's a shorter duration of time for commitment. But usually it's 8 weeks, and some people like really big birds and they'll split them in half and they'll raise them out to 10 weeks. Ideally with those birds, they don't lay eggs. They don't really live long enough to lay eggs. They're bred to gain weight. And there are some people who are determined to get them and keep them as pets. And it's like, pretty much it's like a pig with 2 legs. You have to monitor how much it's eating to prevent it from gaining weight. So they're designed to gain weight. They're kind of like a pig and a duck because they eat a lot of food and they eliminate a lot. So ideally you want to move them in a tractor type cage around a space so they're not on the same land because they go to the bathroom a lot. And that does encourage them from just sitting, constantly.
Susan had a really good question. With ducks and rabbits, the suggested minimum is a trio. What is it for chickens and quail?
Chickens depends on the breed because of the energy energy. For example, the black Australorps are bigger breeds, energetic breeds, heavy, large ones. Usually it's around 5 at the low number to 8 hens per rooster. So if you want fertility, good fertility. If you have 10 hens to the one rooster, then it's not going to be 100%. If you have less hens than that, they're going to get beat up because he's heavy and he's just her feathers on her back she's just gonna get really kind of not nice.
I think she's asking like a minimum for them to have quality of life. Are you?
With roosters and hens.
Chicken.
I would say.
That mating.
I would say
Right.
6 for big chickens. I would say 6 hens to 1 rooster. If it's smaller,
Yeah, and it's the same for
breeds.
quail, like a breeding set,
Yeah.
5 to 1,
Yeah.
5 hens and 1
5
male.
hens, 1 male. Yeah. Yeah. If it's quail 5 to 1, we'll keep the hens looking pretty decent.
And the other thing to consider with quail too, for the quality of life, is the size of the structure.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want it real tiny, obviously, but if it's just a huge open space, if it's too big for them too, you know. An aviary is different. An aviary is like an open form, natural setting for birds. Within an aviary, it's not an open setting. There's a bunch of little hideouts and things for the quails, like in a natural environment. If it's a hutch structure and it's too big, it's just open space, that's not good for them either, and that can stress them out.
You said if you only had 1 quail, then it would die. And he meant, like, because you can't reproduce it. And then if you only have 1 male and 1 female, it's really not nice to the female to have them together at all times, and even 2 females or 3 females.
Yeah, if you had 1 quail,
that's a pet.
It's a pet. It's not going to die, but to do it as a animal for food, you're trying to stress it out, and you're really neglecting it because you're not interacting with it. It has no interaction
social
with anything.
creatures.
They're social.
Yeah.
So if you're not interacting with a quail that you're trying to get an egg from, and it just sits in a cage all day, it's not gonna thrive. It'll be this scrawny, sickly thing.
Okay, yeah. If it's eggs or fertility isn't an issue, then a buddy. You want it to have a buddy. So it's as basic as that gets. Yeah. So with the raising of the birds are different. With the Cornish cross meat chickens, the spacing is different. I feel like I said a good bit. If you had any more questions about the differences with the quail, heritage chickens, and Cornish cross chickens, feel free to.
Yeah, that was a little more involved because there's really 2 types of chickens. And I hope that was clear enough. Heritage chickens, they take longer, they grow longer, they're smaller. Broiler birds, non-heritage chickens.
Now they're quiet, they don't crow.
They get big real quick, and they're for meat. They're like, it's like raising a garden that grows meat. It's just something that grows, produces meat, and it's done.
And you're processing them before they mature.
They're good chickens. I mean, we have them.
They fill your freezer.
They produce a ton of, and they're huge, and they produce a ton of meat. Before I go on, like, something to really consider too is, I guess we naturally think big, like, oh, I'm going to get 10 Cornish cross chickens. And that sounds, okay, that's a lot of meat. It really is a lot of meat. So how many did we get? 12? And it lasted over a year?
We did like 3 batches when we did them.
Yeah, we had a bunch of them, and it filled up an entire freezer, and we're eating chicken nonstop. I guess when we first started, years ago, right?
Yeah.
Knowing now, because that was a learning curve. I was dumb back then. Now I'm less dumb. Still dumb,
And we
but not as
processed them
dumb.
ourselves. We didn't take them somewhere, so that was a good deal of work.
Okay. Yeah, that was fun though.
But you want to make sure if you're doing that,
You learn.
they're bigger birds, they take up more space, and you want to make sure they're safe at all times from predators. So that's something to, with the housing.
Yeah, I think one of the disadvantages in any, whether it's the heritage or the broiler, more commercial birds, chickens, versus the quail, is that, the chickens are definitely more predator prone.
Yeah.
Simply because they're outside. Oh, there was one other thing I want to mention about quail versus chicken. Because they're outside, okay, they're usually ground dwelling when they're out there, okay, and the animals are patrolling around them all the time. The predators have visual on the birds, on the chickens, because they can see them moving around. And the predators remember, they know where the prey is, okay? They see the chickens tooling around. So, they become more susceptible to predators. The other con with chickens over quail, which I'm going to talk about in 1 second, once I get to this. Bill had said if I owned my place, I would probably get chickens, but it would be put a cramp on my camping, fishing, kayaking schedule. Awesome. I love doing that stuff,
That's
man.
awesome.
You know what? I'm going to do that since he mentioned that. Once it gets nice out, we have a lot of really beautiful places down here, too. Pennsylvania is really lovely. for the outdoors. And we do all that stuff, mountain biking, kayaking. I'll put some videos up in the spring to show you the pretty areas here. Okay, the last thing I want to mention, pro and con with chicken and quail. The chicken, because they're ground dwelling, they're more susceptible to coccidiosis and other illnesses, whereas the quail, parasites, whereas your quail are going to be caged off of the ground probably. They're not going to be, most likely, are not going to have the same susceptibility to illness. We've never had ill quail, but we've had ill chicken. Okay, the chicken are going around in the ground. Sometimes there's an abundance of an organism and they can get sick, it's common enough, right? People are treating chickens all the time.
Yeah, it's actually, chickens generally, throughout their lifespan are carrying parasites, because they're just pecking the ground all the time. But they're hardy, so if they're healthy and they're not stressed, then the parasites don't really bother them. But if at some point they get stressed or they get a cold or something, then their immune system is suppressed, and the parasites can take advantage of that and overrun them, and then cause obviously more issues in the health.
Is processing quail easier than chicken? Do you skin them or pluck them?
That is a thing to mention. Pros and cons.
So, yeah, that is a pro and con. I didn't bring it up because it's a gruesome one, and with people just starting with birds, I don't like to always go into let's talk about the gruesome part. But yes, so processing quail is
much faster.
It's much simpler, it's much faster, it's much cleaner, it's a much easier experience. Do I pluck them or skin them? I skin them. And the reason why is because I'll do, like my goal with them, because I have a goal with the quail. The skin's tasty, the skin is good, it's the fat, so it's going to even add a little more flavor to the meat. And the meat, by the way, is tasty. We just had it yesterday. Anyway, so butchering the quail is very simple, but yes, I skin them because I'm really looking for the lean protein, the lean meat, because I'll add fat to it later.
They're very lean. The meat itself is lean.
I'll add fat to it later if I'm cooking something or whatever I'm doing with it. And I cook everything, so I make a million dishes. So for me and what I'm doing, it makes sense for me to skin them. Plus I'm lazy and I don't want to go through plucking. Plucking is just another step.
Although the plucking of quail feathers, they come right off, but their skin is thin, so it's not difficult to tear.
It can tear, especially if you're putting a ton of them in one of those tumblers, a peeler or a plucker. You have to be careful with that.
And people do that.
So chicken is, to me, they're not hard to butcher. It's just more labor because they're bigger. Okay. Is it one-for-one return? Like the amount of meat you get from a chicken and the amount of time you have to put into it, processing it, is it equivalent to the same amount if it were quail? And I would say, I don't know, probably. I mean, maybe a little less actually. But yeah, butchering a chicken is a little more work. Yeah, it absolutely is.
The quail,
it's a good job.
It's kind of like a rabbit. You can just take the skin right off of it.
I have on this YouTube-y thing, I put there's a butcher video I did on here a little bit ago. I try to make it not graphic, but it's
educational.
Quick. Yeah, so butchering the quail is very simple. It goes by quick. I actually do it in the kitchen because it's a clean process. Chickens, you gotta go outside and make sure, because it can get pretty messy. And once you get practice, though, it's not messy. If you do that regularly. But yeah, it's a lot easier to do the quail.
I think there was another comment here.
There's another comment. Oh, the banning video was good. Don't think my birds would let me handle them like that.
Gonna check that out. I was gonna check out your butcher one.
Oh, speaking of old videos too, we were talking about diseases. Sorry,
That's okay.
You're gonna hit me. We're talking about. We did a really cool. Remember our chicken illnesses video? We do a lot of so I like to do topics and long form stuff, like in-depth educational, like worthwhile stuff for you guys. So a few videos ago, if you're sitting around bored and for some reason you want to hear us yapping, we did a video about illnesses, common poultry illnesses, wryneck, torticollis, what else do we see? Coccidiosis,
different bacteria.
Yeah, so if you want to learn about a few of those common injuries and illnesses, so we did a video about that. But yeah, so Bill was saying.
Yeah, you'd be surprised with holding the quail, you know what? Do you want me to? I can do. Let me grab this
You
thing
want to
real
pick
quick.
this up?
Yeah, let me grab them really quick.
She's grabbing Old Red. I just named him Old Red.
So Bill was mentioning my video I just did, and I was showing how I handle them to do banding, and
Why is this bird so calm?
you'd be surprised if you're holding them in a way that they feel snug, like not imbalanced. Usually with poultry, if they get their wings out, it's funny how calm this dude is. If they get their wings out and they start flapping, then they feel imbalanced and it freaks them out.
Closer.
And then the legs, I'm holding the thighs, so it kind of keeps him from moving too much. And if he gets kicking, then that can make him feel imbalanced as well and scare him. So when I hold them to band them, let's see what I do is I put his back against usually my waist, and then I hold his little legs, both of them in my fingers like that, and I have this wing. So I usually have him lower on my body, so it's kind of awkward. But I'll have this wing pinned in my hand, and then this one's kind of in my body, and I can just they just sit there. Sometimes they'll squirm,
He's just sitting there.
but he feels balanced and safe. He's like steady against my body, which is like stationary. So you'd be surprised, Bill, what you can do in this, because he can't really do anything. Like, see, I can quickly control him with my loose hand, reposition him, put him back.
So he's sitting like a baby.
Yeah, it's just, you'd be surprised. You should give it a try. The more you handle them, the more confident you'll get, and then they just, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe the reason your quail are being mean is like it's a prison, and you're the CEO, and you're like, oh, we're gonna take this guy down.
No.
You just haven't been assertive with the quail. That's Angela's theory.
No.
I like that Chelsea.
But the more you handle them, the more confident you feel as well, and you just you're used to their movement, and then you can compensate. So. Yeah,
but they're cool little animals. Again, most of you guys it's a small channel, so not a million people. So if you're familiar with quail, you probably know what we're talking about. If you're not, I hope you learned something. They're fun birds. I really encourage the families. Like, I always talk about this. I like humans. I like humans to be happy, and I particularly like the relationship of the family and younger kids or grandkids. And doing something like this is great for the young kids because they're very easy to tend to and take care of. And they're cheap. It's not like you're going to lose a lot of money if they really do something horrible and they accidentally kill a bird or one gets out. Mm-hmm. It's no big loss. It's not a huge investment to get a couple of quail. But the rewards are immeasurable, I think, at least for younger people, especially when they are accomplishing things with them. All right, and you older guys too, people my age. I mean, if you're a full-grown adult, try something new, do something new. Life is so short, and I always go on these emotional rants at the end of these videos because I just hope somebody somewhere is like, you know what, that goofball is right. Why haven't I done blank? Mm-hmm. I've never, what's keeping me from doing that? Just excuse after excuse? No, you do something. I don't care if somebody does quail, just do something. And experience the pleasures of life as much as you can, because Lord knows it ain't always fun,
Yeah, and I just heard something the other day. I was listening to a podcast, and they're just talking about how the way as humans are, we're social, we interact with each other, and you might have fond memories maybe of sitting around a campfire or just in a context where it's evening and you're with friends or you're with family. And people tell stories, and it's just how we are. We tell stories, we share information, we share experiences through stories. And if you can make your day or your week or whatever, if you can go through it and think of something that's story worthy, even if it's a 2-minute story, but to enhance your life in the sense of being mindful and aware of what you're doing, and maybe even that'll encourage somebody to push a little further beyond what they usually do in a day, or what they would change your choices. But if you can produce a story that you can share with somebody, like that's memorable and it's like special. And I don't know, that just like set well with me because I don't know, everybody likes to hear stories. That's like how we connect. And
and how we relate.
Creating small stories
We
from your own
relate to
experiences.
each other that way.
Whoops, I'm sorry, I missed that call.
Flyer Dad, he said, improving yourself is the best investment.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, ma'am. I'm a huge advocate of that. Every day, do something, you know. I don't like to do many of these. I don't like cliches. I do not like, what are those things? Those stupid memes, those self-improvement memes that people put up all the time. I mean, I know they're well-intended, but to me, it's just like, okay, all right, I saw that, and now it's done, and now I'm by myself again. There's no fellowship in that, and that's important. Fellowship. Do you know what that is? Do you know what that is? You know, people spending time together, interacting, and there has not been fellowship between human beings very much over the last 3 years now, has there? So through this kind of thing, even though it's electronic, it's over the internet, we don't actually, we're not in person. It's to provide some fellowship, to say, hey humans, I'm just exactly like you, okay? I've suffered, I've been happy, I've won, I've lost, all the same things. But like Flyer Dad said from the Netherlands, improve thyself, and not in the self-worshipping kind of way, but improve yourself because you're capable, you're designed for purpose. You're not an accident, you're not by mistake. This is not religious psychobabble, it's just a fact. You're a very important creature. So this is why I like to do this stuff, to hopefully one day, even if it's one person in an entire life that you encourage to do something good for themselves, then you've done something most wonderful, because every person is of infinite value. So if you improve somebody, even one person, then you improved something to an infinite level of measure. That's how I feel. So anyway, I like to remain goofy, but sometimes I give this serious talk. But yeah, man. So keep doing stuff, keep learning, share your gifts. That's what we like to do, is share our gift, even though it's, something like just a little bit of knowledge. You share your gifts with others. And, if you're in a position where you can be good to other people, I don't mean financially, just say hi, be kind. Some people are miserable. Their lives suck right now. Then they can't muster up the energy to do that. Well, it is on behalf of those people that I will say, hello, how are you? Can I help you? And this sort of thing. That's my philosophy. Anyway, guys.
Yeah, if you guys like what you're seeing, and if you haven't already, please subscribe and give us a thumbs up. And, ask us any questions, or if you have any thoughts about what we talked about, or anything, feel free to put it in the comment section below. But yeah, thank you so much for watching.
Susan, we really appreciate you coming in. I like her.
Yes.
I watch your videos. I saw you on, what is it? The one Instagram? Is that it? I was stalking you on Instagram. I think we follow you now.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
You're welcome.
Oh, thanks, hon. Really appreciate you guys. Take good care. I guess that's it. I'll wrap it up. Like you said, if you have any questions, put them down in the comments. We'll be happy to answer them. Or if you have an idea for a video, let us know. We'll do that too. Okay, I'm going to hit the X up here.
Yeah,
thank you for your time.
You.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.